Hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever Let's Talk Mortgages podcast, brought to you by Green Mortgage and Protection. First of all, thank you very much for Sam for joining us in his very own studio.
Yeah, I'm hosting today. Here we are.
He's hosting, kind of not hosting. So thank you for the use of your amazing space here as well.
Thanks for coming
down.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so we've gone through this, a few questions to ask, a bit of a get to know me session, really. Bit of a easing into this podcast. So I guess kind of starting at the top, like why are you looking to do this podcast? What's the aims of this?
Obviously I've been in here before, been on plenty of other people's podcasts, and I think what we do as an industry is Instagram and everything like that's great for getting information across to people, but we need to be having proper conversations with people, kind of getting that educational bit over, because there's a lot of misconceptions in our industry, a lot of old myths that mum and dad used to tell you when you bought a house in the 80s.
Are you having to fight against that a lot, like the myths and the stereotypes, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's great when mum and dad are involved, and it's great that they want to look after their son and daughter when they're making a big commitment like buying a house, but when dad sat there and is like, well, can't you self-certify your mortgage anymore? I was like, no, it's not 1989 anymore. We had a financial crash for a reason. Those sort of things aren't allowed anymore. Yeah, or can you borrow more money than what the house is worth because she wants to put a new kitchen in, and that sort of stuff doesn't exist anymore. But mum and dad, who rightly so, like my parents are moving house at the moment. They haven't moved house for 30 years, so I did the mortgage for them. Thankfully, I'd be a bit upset if they didn't come to me for it, but they're still thinking things like they are in '94.
I guess, like, what services do you do then? So obviously mortgages, but I know you're obviously a lot more than that as well. So do you want to just kind of educate us what is it you guys do? Yeah,
so again, one of the big things I wanted to get out of this podcast is obviously educate people, kind of reach a wider audience and help more people. But obviously getting to know us, we are predominantly residential mortgages. That is our bread and butter. Yeah. We offer personal what we call protection. It's not security. It's actually financial security in the form of like life insurance and things like that. So. Yeah.
Well, I know all this because I've gone through the process. So it's kind of nice that I'm sat here because I've been through it. I see what you do, and it's not just. I guess when you're on that journey, especially like as a first-time buyer, it can be quite overwhelming, I think. And like for you to come in and go, you need this, but not just pushy as well. Like I feel like very helpful, and like it's the advice side of things which people don't really get a lot of the time.
And that's it, and that's kind of where we come in, especially for first-time buyers. I mean, they're our ideal client for us because you're taking someone that's never been through the process before. Yeah, it's a big, daunting process. I mean, other than getting married and somebody passing away, it's one of the most stressful things you'll ever go through. So it's where we can add the most value to people, obviously educating them through the process and taking them from mum and dad's house to something of their own. Yep. You get couples that have never lived together, so you're helping them on their journey of going from living independently to living together. Yep. So it's always nice to see that side, and obviously when people are then coming to you and saying, oh, you did a really good job with our first house, but we've got a baby on the way, we need to start planning for that. That's lovely as well. But yeah, our job's quite almost bipolar, really. So you're talking to people about this really nice event of buying your first house. Yep. But then we need to throw in the conversation about personal insurance. Like, yeah, we're talking about your dream now, but what happens if you get seriously ill? What happens if you pass away? What happens if your income stops? So we need to have both those conversations, which that's where the protection side comes in. So we want to protect your ability to buy your dream home, but also keep it and also maintain the lifestyle that you've built as well.
It's cliche, but like all under one roof, innit? Like, just come to you and
come hand in hand. Yeah, that's
all
it.
Sorted. Yeah, don't have to worry about anything. So I guess kind of like a bit of a step back then, really. Like, tell us a little bit about kind of how you started, or what's a short story of the journey from past to now, how we got here.
A short story, so
because I know it's a long story, but
I can make it sound long. We started Green and Green 4 years ago, but previously to that, I worked for somebody else. My background and Reese, who's our other advisor, our background is professional sport. We both played rugby league professionally for 10 years, knowing full well that's not going to last forever. Studied to become a mortgage advisor, but the reason I got into this is you speak to any other mortgage advisor, the podcast I've been on, the people I speak to, nobody sets out to become a mortgage advisor. Yeah. It seems to be that job everyone just falls into. Yeah. I've never met a kid in school that goes, do you know what, one day I want to be a mortgage advisor. It just doesn't happen like that.
No, yeah. I never thought that, but yes. But why have you chosen that then?
So like playing rugby, like being surrounded by some of like the senior players, and then my wife's grandparents owned quite a lot of property. It was more the property side that interested me. Yeah. So we started investing when I was still playing rugby, kind of preparing for that first retirement of professional sport. Loved everything about it. Did all the qualifications to become an estate agent, thinking that's something I could dip my toe into around rugby. Turns out you really can't. So kind of put that on the back burner. Yeah. And the next thing for me was, I'm a bit of a geek, so I quite enjoyed like the finance side of it and like the numbers and building something and stuff like that. So kind of fell into it that way, and that was like 6 years ago. Coming up to, I think by the time this gets released in June 2024, it'll be our 4th anniversary of the business. So. Yeah. Started off in my box room at home because this is something I could start small with. Yeah. The room was that small, obviously I'm a big man anyway, but I could touch all 4 walls somewhere.
I remember on COVID Zoom meetings, you'd joke about that. It stuck with me that I was like, I mean, that's always like metaphorical for like how you've grown as a company, in it, that you could touch both walls with both hands, and now you've got staff. You're able to provide like a lot more of a detailed kind of like a full service really, and obviously office is located in the Ergo, yeah? Yeah,
we're in the Ergo building in Hessel. So that kind of came out of necessity. You wanna build a business, and when you're sat in your box room at home and the only place someone can sit on is the printer or the radiator, it's not exactly an exciting proposition for people. So yeah, we've got the office in Ergo now. Got an admin team, more advisors, and we're kind of outsourcing as much as we can, but we're trying to bring more of that in-house with stuff like this. So yeah, it's building nicely, and off the back of a pandemic as well, which was interesting.
I know, I mean, your job at the moment seems a lot more difficult than others with you're constantly having to look at what's going on with the government, with the news. Obviously, a lot of stuff affects interest rate. So how are you finding that? Because I guess it's more of a personal question, but just like figuring that out, like navigating that each day, because that must be pretty tricky. And I guess like a reason why to use you, I guess, because you're quite invested in that and doing that research on behalf of others, right?
Yeah, I mean, now more than ever, we're actually getting people that need our services who have always sorted their own mortgage before. Yeah. Because the market wasn't as volatile as what it is now, people were quite confident and comfortable going to the bank or going on a comparison website and just doing it themselves. Yeah. Like these last 2 weeks alone, I've had like 4 people ring up and say, I normally do it myself, but yeah, we kind of need some help this time around. So yeah, people are looking for more independent advice now, but yeah, I mean, COVID was the best time ever to be a mortgage advisor. It was brilliant. Like most people say, hated it. I'd never want to go back into lockdown again. I would love to go back into that first lockdown. I was working from home. Interest rates were like 1%. Yeah. So you could obviously have a Zoom call with somebody. You'd sit down with them, and yeah, this is the option for you. And it'd start with a 1, and it could have been like the 5th best option. I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Yes, we'll take it. And it's like the job did itself.
And what are we at like right now, just for those listening, at this moment in terms of comparison? You know, it was 1% then. What are we looking at now?
So now you're looking at about 4 point something, depending on how much deposit or equity you've got. Yeah. So it's, I think again, as people look at, oh my god, rates are so high. I always tell people so when the financial crash happened in 2008, I was 17 years old. Yeah. I remember going into the Hull City Centre and seeing people queuing around the block where Northern Rock used to be. I was like, what's going on? I was like, I don't understand it. Turns out everyone wanted the money because it had gone belly up.
Yeah, I remember those pictures on news of people queuing to literally take the money out of the bank.
Yeah, all the way around like the city centre, going around the square. I was like, I don't know what's going on. So from 2008, when I'm 17, I'm 33 now.
That's a thing there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. all my head knocks from rugby. All my adult life, I've only ever known like interest rates of like 1-2%. Yeah. So all our client base, that's that sort of age, they can be forgiven thinking, well, it's always like this. But if you look at history, again, we're trying to make a vanilla subject not as vanilla, but I'm talking about interest rates already.
Yeah. Inevitable.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. But yeah, before the crash, interest rates historically were about 4 or 5%. Yeah. So we're kind of back where we normally are, but I think when you've had it so good for the last 16 years, people think, "Oh my God,
spoiled, haven't we?"
Yeah, it's extortionate." We have been spoiled, and we were spoiled as brokers in COVID. So now we're actually having to earn our money and explain why this is the best option. I know it's not what you thought it was going to be, but this is the best option.
It's a double whammy in it, because as well as the interest rates, just the cost of living's gone up. So it's like, the interest is higher, but it's everything into it. So that's why I think people are a little bit annoyed about it all, and I can see why.
You can't catch a break though, can you? Nah. It's not just your interest rate that's going up, it's your gas and electric, it's the fuel you're putting in your car, it's food in Morrison's and stuff like that. It's just like you're just getting it from all angles, aren't you?
Well, I was going to ask as well, like, what sets you apart from others, but before that, I know that we're talking about cost of living and helping people out. I know that part of what you want to do as well is go into companies and give that free advice to start with, isn't it? And just seeing where you can help with, companies with a lot of staff that, if they want to help them out in any way they can. Part of that might be you coming in and seeing if you can save them money.
Well, and that's the big thing. Hence why we're doing this podcast as well. Is like this podcast itself isn't gonna generate any income for us, but if it can help people out there, kind of educate people, tell them what their options are, what's available, how to best navigate what they're trying to do, we get much more satisfaction out of that than we do from any commission that we get paid. Like I was saying earlier about first-time buyers, is seeing them go from not knowing what the hell's going on to then seeing them on Instagram where they've got a picture of the keys outside their front house and they've got a big smile on their face. Like,
that must be a good job satisfaction.
That's the best part of it. So, and especially when you start to build that relationship with people as well, where in good times and bad, it's like good times, like, oh, we've got a baby on the way, we need to upsize. Great, yeah, we can help you with that. And bad times, I had a call this morning, a couple are splitting up. Can you help us sort the affairs out with the house? It's like, yeah, we can help with that as well. Now, knowing you've taken the stress out of what's going to be a really crappy situation, that's why we kind of do what we do. So yeah, we basically just set out to help as many people as possible. We are a small firm. We are based in Hull, but if we can reach people by going into their place of work, things like this, it's
all the little things that add up, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I don't sit still very well. So if I've got some spare time, I want to fill it by helping people. So the cogs are always turning about how we can help people in different ways. But what we started doing back end of 2022, when Liz Truss brought out that really good budget that nearly tanked the economy.
And that's when you helped us out with the remortgage, because we was in that sweet spot of, I think we might have even got...
I want to call that a sweet spot.
Well,
to be
it
fair.
wasn't a sweet spot.
Positive spin on it.
we got an offer of... You got us an offer. And then I think the day after we got that offer, everything happened. I was like, all right, Jim, press that green button. Like,
yeah, it's... People feel really hard done by. It's like, because if you're on the other side of that, it's like, I can't do anything until another week or so.
I felt guilty for others. Like, we were remortgaged the week after and lost hundreds. A month, whatever it is,
and that's it. And... it's just we started going into local businesses because a lot of people were worried, especially those on like fixed incomes, where if the overtime's not there, commissions and bonuses and stuff, is you do feel pretty trapped in terms of, well, I've got this set amount of money coming in every month, but my expenses are going to go through the roof. Like, what on earth can I do? So, because everyone else's costs were going up, a lot of employers weren't in a position where they could give people pay rises to take the edge off. So what we said to employers was, how about we come in free of charge, give your staff half an hour slots. We don't know what they want to talk about. It's almost like blind date. I'm sat there in a room waiting for whoever to come through the door. I don't know who it is. I don't know what they want, what they need. And I'm just sat there like, what can I help you with?
Speed dating with mortgages.
Yeah, like you end up making like real awkward small talks. Like, so you worked here often then? And we used to just go in. It was still doing it to this day. We're chatting about like, okay, you've got an upcoming mortgage renewal. What can you do about it? People that have bought Help to Buy properties 5 years ago. What do you do about the Help to Buy loan? That sort of thing.
Well, can you give us any like success stories from that? Is there any like individual cases where you think that stands out as, if we didn't do that, wouldn't have helped this person do X?
Yeah, so we had a guy who came to us through the drop-ins at a local business, and him and his partner had amassed quite a lot of credit card debt, basically renovating the house top to bottom, and it got to a point where they were basically just living to service the credit card, loan payments, mortgage payments, that sort of thing. So we sat down with them and looked through what they've got outgoing, what's the rate on it, what's the cost on it, and we said, look, we can look to add some of this to the mortgage. So you're going to pay a bit more interest because you're going to pay it over the longer term, but it's going to save you about £800 a month.
Wow.
And that £800 you save, you can then start paying off the other stuff.
Percentage-wise of what you earn a month as well, that's a big deal.
They literally had like nothing left. Like the credit cards had like £2 left on the limit. So they'd like, I mean, it was quite impressive how they'd managed to get that close to the limit and not go over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went freeing up £800 a month, somebody like that. Wow. Got them out a bit of a financial fix. So yeah, it's been really useful doing stuff like that. We kind of get to spread the name of the business as well, like in the local area by like being on the ground and speaking to people. So
yeah, all around, right? Like
that's it. Yeah, it's an employee benefit for the employer. The members of staff get some benefit out of it, and we can help as many people as we can.
So what else sets you apart from other advisors out there? I mean, we've touched on quite a few key points there, but is there any other bits which you think that's something we do, which potentially if we went somewhere else, you wouldn't get that support?
I think it's always a difficult question to answer that one, because if you're a mortgage advisor, you're pretty much bound by what mortgage products you've got access to.
Yeah.
So I'll have access to HSBC just like Joe Bloggs will down the street. So we've all got access to the same basket of products basically, but it's how you deliver them and it's how you use them. Mm-hmm. So when we get clients coming to us from another brokerage or they've used in the past, one of the biggest grumbles people have is it took them forever to get back to me, communication fell off, that sort of thing. So we always make a point of communication is key. Even if things aren't going right, we'll update you every few days so you know what's going on. Okay, yeah. I mean, you've bought a house yourself. From the day you put an offer into the day you actually get the keys, that's a long span of time. Yeah. You want to know what's going on because, again, if you've not been through the process before, you instantly start thinking the worst, thinking, oh God, it's not going to happen. Like, what do we do? So,
well, it's knowing like the order of the process as well. I think that's one thing I took from it. It was like you assume that people like yourselves are expecting us to know, but I didn't feel that working with you. I felt like you were kind of like holding our hand through it and didn't, not in a patronising way, but very like just educated us on just keeping us up to date, which I think helps. And I was able to pick up the phone, and although like before I had the phone call, I'd be thinking, I'm going to be bothering you here. Like, what am I doing? But at the end of the phone call, I was like, oh no, what was I thinking? Like, you just think some advice.
Well, what we try and do is in that initial meeting is kind of signpost the entire process, so you know what to expect, what the next steps are. So as soon as you get an update from me, in your mind, you can tick it off. Like, right, we've done that one. This is the next bit. Yeah. But when you get an update, I'll tee up what the next one's going to be. We try and have the philosophy where if you ring me or chase me for an update, we've failed. We should always beat you to the punch with that one. Yeah. Almost by preempting what the question's going to be and giving you the answer beforehand, or giving you an update and then telling you what's going to happen after that. But yeah, essentially communication, customer service. Service is what separates us from other people. I'm not saying people have got terrible customer service, but we're massive on it. And I was chasing you for a Google review. We've got over 200 5-star Google reviews, so we're really proud of that. But yeah, just we've got a team that have got a mix of different backgrounds. So obviously, me and Reece playing rugby. When we started the business, it was to do things how we think they should be done. Yeah. We've never worked anywhere before where, oh, this is how it's always been done. It's like, no, we think this is how it should be done. This is how we're going to do it. And if that's in the best interest of the client, then that's what we're going to do. And then we've got Anna and Charlie, who are in our admin department, both been in customer service roles for years. So that's the reason why we hired them. They're amazing with their communication. So it's just that hand-holding from beginning to end at what can be a stressful time.
I guess you're saving people kind of like money and time as well, because they're not having to go from bank to bank and go to each of these lenders individually. It's just a one-stop shop, really, isn't it? Which, and on these other services as well that you offer that we've already gone through. But I think the time aspect of it, like, just again from my point of view, just easy.
Well, that's it. So that whenever you buy a service or you make a decision in life, it comes down to two things: it's money or it's time. Like, look at postage stamps. You can pay a little bit extra for a first-class stamp and it gets there a day earlier. Yeah. Or you can save a little bit of money and it'll get there 2 days later. So the decision comes down to money or time. Using a broker like us can save you both. The alternative is you go on a comparison website and you try and find your own mortgage yourself.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the best deal for you? Do you know? Can you see all the fees on there? Because what might be the cheapest interest rate and cheapest monthly payment, when you start adding in valuation fees, arrangement fees, things like that, it can quite quickly become a lot more expensive than what you think. So you can do that. You can take that risk. You can you can try and get that yourself, or you can do it the old-fashioned way, like Mum and Dad used to do, where you'd go see your bank manager at NatWest, see what he'd say. Oh, it's a no for us, unfortunately. Okay, we'll go see Mr. Barclays.
Spend a full afternoon, I bet.
Yeah, well, you can
spend
weeks doing it, yeah.
Get somewhere in the bank's closed half the time these days.
Well, what we find as well is people that go to the bank, it's like the bank will schedule like a 3-hour appointment for you. I don't know how much information they need in 3 hours to go through a mortgage application. Most of our appointments take 40 minutes, and we still manage to get all of that information in 40 minutes. So your appointment's shorter. You have one appointment with us rather than 7 different 3-hour appointments with the banks. And then because we've got all your information, we know exactly what it is that you want to do. We then speak to those banks on your behalf. So 40 minutes with us and we do all of that, or 21 hours with all the banks, hoping you get it right and hoping they're the best one. So not only do we save you time there, we do the legwork for you. We can save you that money by finding the very best, cheapest option from the wider market. So we can save you time and money by just spending 40 minutes with us.
So just tell me a little bit about just came to mind then, because I remember seeing it. You've worked in this booklet, it's like a
first-time buyer's guide.
I'd call it a Bible. It's everything you need in there, isn't it? But I guess that's like, going back to that question of what do you do that's different to, to going to others. If you go to a bank, they might give you a leaflet, but I think what you've got is very detailed, but very digestible, very helpful. But just, again, just another example of like that little step that you're doing that others potentially aren't. Do you just want to walk us through what that is, that guide?
Yeah, so we kind of had the idea last year of, again, first-time buyers are our ideal client. How do we find more and how do we give more value to them? Yeah. So normally people come to us when they're already ready to make that decision. So it's like, I've got my deposit, I'm ready to go, or I found this particular property, I've fallen in love with it, can you make it happen? We were thinking 12 months ahead of that. So we get a lot of people, if they're confident enough, will come forward and they'll say, I really want to buy a house, but I don't think I'm ready. That's absolutely fine. They're the people we want to be speaking to.
Breaking that myth, innit, of that. Like, I've recommended people to say, I'm not ready yet. I'm like, don't matter. This is the first step before you're ready, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Like people don't know what's possible until they actually speak to us. So again, kind of myth busting is, you need a 20% deposit, you need a perfect credit score. 20, 30 years ago, maybe you did, whereas now you don't. So we wanted to encourage people to speak to us before they think they're ready, because we can tell you, well, where you are now, you could do this, or if you do these two or three things, speak to us again in 6 or 12 months, and then you are ready. Yeah. So we put this first-time buyers guide together. It's available in digital copies and hard copies, where essentially reading that, in the next 12 months, that'll put you in the best position possible to then buy a property. So we were kind of jumping ahead a year in advance, speaking to people a year before they're ready, and say, look, if you follow this every step of the way, we promise you that you will be in the best position possible come 12 months to then buy your house. Spent quite a lot of money on getting it written. We had copywriters involved. We had a marketing agency put it together for us. We've got a landing page for it. So spent quite a bit of money on it, and we're giving that away for free because we are just there to help people.
Yeah, I feel like, there is a genuine, the job satisfaction is the reason why I do it.
Yeah, and I think I always, everything I do business-wise now is probably taken from my rugby career, where I remember a coach saying to me, it's like, you'll never remember how much money you earned whilst you were playing rugby, but you'll remember specific emotional moments throughout your career, whether it be, I don't know, overcoming adversity, winning something, a big connection with a teammate or something like that. And I think that's true in business, is when does enough become enough? You can always chase company turnover, but it's quite shallow and you don't really get satisfaction from that. Whereas when your head hits the pillow on a night, it's like, do you know what, I made a real difference by helping Joe buy his first house, or they were in a bit of a sticky situation, they thought it wasn't possible, and we've managed to get a solution for them. And they're the things that get you out of bed in the morning, and what we're trying to achieve.
Like that. That might stick with me, that, because Yeah, it's a good little philosophy to work to, that you're not just chasing the financials. And I think a lot of people in business, for the right reasons, are doing it for just the job satisfaction, how it makes them feel. So, and
I think it's difficult, especially because technically we do work in finance. So I think it's very much like, oh, so-and-so earns this, he's got this car, look at the clothes he wears and stuff. It's like, don't get me wrong, that they are nice, but is it fulfilling? I don't really think it is.
It's not a massive motivator, is it?
No, and that's it. And I think buying a home is difficult, so you shouldn't do it alone, which is what we're trying to achieve with this. So we're trying to bring a pretty boring subject to life. It is obviously necessary if you do want to buy your own house, unless you are fortunate enough to have hundreds of thousands of pounds in the bank and you can go buy it outright. You are going to need a mortgage. So,
not everyone's that fortunate, I'm afraid. But
if only.
So people watching this now, they're thinking, I want to get in touch. How do they get in touch? How do we find you?
So we're pretty consistent on social media. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. A little bit of TikTok on there. There's no dancing videos or anything like that.
Yeah, social media is good. We got involved with doing little bits of it while we're here. But yeah, the memes and things, I think that's a little bit different as well. You don't take yourself too serious. You're not sat here in a suit. You're not here incredibly formal. It's very relaxed. And I think that social media kind of represents that as well. And
that's what we were trying to get to. So I'm kind of glad you've said it, because there's a picture of me when I first started the business, and I've got a full suit on, Gordon Gekko braces, everything. I'm like, oh my God, like what were you doing? Like I just thought getting into this industry, that's what you have to do. I used to do home visits. At the time, I had like a really clapped out car because I was playing rugby and I was travelling down the motorway. So I used to drive to people's houses, park around the corner so they wouldn't see my car, and then I'd get out and I'd walk around the corner the rest of the way and turn up in this like full suit.
No way.
And I thought, you know what, like, that's the old stereotype of being a mortgage advisor. No offense to people out there who fit this stereotype, but mortgage advisor was usually a middle-aged white man, bald head, grey suit, and like a briefcase. Yeah. That's what you kind of pictured when you were speaking to a mortgage advisor, where now it's a lot of the people we speak to, because they're like our demographic, they're like mid-20s, is everyone's a lot more casual now. And I think when you sit down with them and talk to them about such a stressful thing like buying a house, is if I'm sat there in a full suit and I get my laptop out, you're like, oh wow, yeah, this is serious. Yeah. Whereas if I sit there in like smart casual clothes, I might swear occasionally in the appointment just to take the edge off a little bit. And I think it helps people feel a lot more comfortable, and makes people think you're human as well.
You've seen it everywhere. I mean, obviously, so we do video production, and I'm seeing it with like the weddings that we shoot, that the ones we were doing 5-10 years ago were full suits, top hats. The first few top hats thrown in there.
Whereas top and tails.
Top and tails a lot. Whereas now, trainers. And it might be going a bit too far sometimes, maybe too relaxed, but it's just a sign of that kind of culture is changing. I think with that, business needs to change, and I think businesses that kind of adopt that kind of presence and how they look to a customer makes people more approachable and a bit more. It adds that element of trust as well. I think if you're kind of on board and listening to how customers feel and want to be made to feel comfortable, really, I think it's all kind of part of that. Like a very relaxed atmosphere, but smart relaxed, I think.
Well, that's it. Yeah, like at the end of the day, we should be judged on. You wanted to buy a house. Did I help you buy the house? Did you get the best mortgage product possible? And did I make life as easy as possible for you? That's how we should be judged, not by what clothes I wear. Like my wife's always telling me that I need to buy new clothes. It's the last thing I'll spend money on. But yeah, I think we're all just normal people. Like we live in Hull at the end of the day, so it's not like we're talking with directors of big multinational companies and stuff, and you think, oh God, I should maybe do that. It's like we're normal people offering a great service to other normal people. So yeah, I mean, back to where you can find us is social media. So Green and Green Mortgage and Protection across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Website is greenandgreen.net, and then. Yeah, they're probably the main ones. We've got an inquiry form on the website, so if anybody does need anything, fill that in, and then one of our advisors will get in touch with you and help where we can.
Yes, great. So I know, obviously this is the first episode, a little bit of a get to know you session. So I know moving forward, obviously you'll be getting guests in. Just want to walk us through kind of what the rest looks like in that format, and that I think you could be asking questions from people watching. Is that right?
Yeah, so plan is hoping to release one episode a month, and then this is also going to not going to be a podcast, but we can also then break it down for social media as well. But planning on episode 2 being about first-time buyers. So we're going to cover everything about buying a house, what to look out for, what the steps are, that sort of thing. But yeah, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So kind of open this up as an opportunity for people to ask us a question, and then we can answer a question each week at the end of each podcast. So if anybody does have any questions that you would like us to answer, please get in touch either through social media or through the website, and we'll get that answered on next month's episode if you'll have us back again.
Perfect. Yeah. Welcome all the time. So yeah, I guess we'll see you in the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for having us.